I'm Merryl Key, and this is my mystery school. I wanted to do a tarot astrology review of 2021. What happened? And why? Why did we have to go through all of that? It wasn't the best year. Of course, COVID was the big thing for the whole year. It created lockdowns, borders opened and closed, Delta became Omicron, and there was a massive shift for online learning, shopping, buying your groceries, getting your entertainment, or meeting your friends. There were mask mandates and work mandates. And with the nodes in Gemini and Sag, a war of words and ideas between truth, belief, and information. Uranus and Saturn squared off 3 times during the year, but they characterised that whole year of bristling tension, and of course Mars was everywhere. The January 6 insurrection was a shocking display of this kind of revolt against restriction and the failure of security, protection and information. These clashes also work with the anti-lockdown, anti-vax protests and that general distrust of authority. Uranus and Saturn square would also be involved in the Great Resignation and all those tensions around control and crackdowns and radical forces, the US withdrawal of Afghanistan and the Taliban regaining control, Myanmar erupting, China prosecuting the Hong Kong democracy protesters, and the disappearance of political journalists, scientists, actresses, booksellers, and even tennis players, anyone who doesn't follow party line. Neptune and PALLAS were active in the first part of the year, and they featured the unravelling of cover-ups, the exposure of war crimes, and the defamation trial of an elite group of Australian SAS soldiers. The trial has exposed some of the lengths that the SAS officers went to allegedly hide and destroy evidence, and a culture of toxic masculinity and what they're calling hero worship that undermine the whole crew. The trial's been postponed and full of delays, but I think when PALLAS squares off against PLUTO in April 2022, there'll be some sort of conclusion. At the same time, PALLAS will be joining Saturn and CERES, so it looks to be explosive. Vesta was showing up as an influence in this later part of 2021, and at times working with CERES and LILITH. She had a big influence on the way issues of consent and sex trafficking and sex scandals involving big imbalances of power were brought to the surface and exposed. She's been active at the start of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial and also the exposés into sexual harassment and sexual assault in Parliament. We also saw Sedna and CERES involved in getting some sort of global consensus about emissions targets, but also their influence in floods, blizzards, volcanoes, tornadoes, extreme weather, which will probably continue into early next year when Sedna joins the North Node. So let's have a look and see what the cards have to say about 2021 and why it had to happen the way it did. So first card, starting with the World. I'm going to be reading these in all directions, but also along the lines of environment, social, and what was that one? Global big picture, what's lying underneath it. Okay. So we've got the World, King of Swords, King of Cups, the Fool, and the Ace of Wands. Chariot, 9 of Cups, Queen of Cups in the centre, Death card, and the 8 of Cups. So remembering this one is the environment, this one is social, what happens in the social level, 2021, and this is the big picture, what was going on underneath. Moon at the end. Queen of Wands, Temperance, Nine of Pentacles, Knight of Swords, and the Moon. So in the environment, we're starting with the world. Everyone was involved, everyone's connected, and we're reaching the end of a really big cycle. To get there though, in the environment, it looks like there's a battle between the head and the heart. So in the environment, I guess this would mean the logical, clear, science-related decisions versus those that were more flexible. And in the environment, also looking for more a compassionate, connected, protective view. So there was a shift in 2021 from this very hard line to having more acceptance and emotional maturity about how to... That was Siri. Hey Siri, can we save the world? She's not answering. So as I was saying, a shift from this more rational hardline approach to one of recognising there's an overall responsibility, a connectedness that needs to be addressed. The King of Cups is someone...
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help with?
I have to turn her off, hold on. There's also a mirror between the King of Swords, the rational science approach, and this recklessness, this open, freedom-loving aspect of the Fool. And something in 2021 in the environment, there had to be a way to bring these together. Because the Queen of Cups is in the centre, and that's the most important card as far as 2021 goes. It's about finding the heart inside. There's more information coming out. And the King of Cups is kind of swamped and overwhelmed with it. So the environment was overwhelmed with this division. This first card, she's looking back at history, at what we've brought to this point. And she's saying that hard decisions need to be made about the environment. So although we need a softer approach to bridge these two places, in the end, in the future, we've got the Ace of Wands, which is saying you'll come to a point where you have to really hardline it. It has to be decisive, or you'll be hit on the head with it if it's too soft and too compromised. So it needs that emotional intelligence, and that's what these two bring, that emotional intelligence, to stop playing around. Make the decisions that these two signify. These two signify that decisions were made, but these two make me feel that they were literally watered down and compromised, which is what we know that's what happened at the Glasgow Climate Conference. 2021 was something between the end of a big cycle and the start of a new one, and this is what we've got weighing down on the social structures and the big picture undercurrents. The fact that we start with the world and end with the moon really shows that these decisions get watered down, and we're in the middle of something where, although we're starting with we're at the end, we haven't reached this rebirth yet, and the rebirth is showing here as well. Camera incident. I'm just going to go straight back into it with the Ace of Wands. This one links up to this one, the Queen of Wands. So I'm suspecting she is calling for this much tougher approach to come in our environment. And also, I guess this is around lockdowns and where there's restriction to movement. The big picture is about getting a more feminine leadership in, one that can combine. On the social and personal level, I'm looking at this line, and it starts off feeling really, we started 2021 feeling we'd really kicked it, and anyone who thought they were going straight back to work was sitting smug and not seeing what was really there. Socially and on a personal level, There's been a massive death, a massive transformation. And I'm reading this one, the Eight of Cups, as one of the things that happened on a social level was the Great Resignation. People leaving their work or their town or their state because things have changed. And it feels like this disappointment, getting back in touch with the emotional side, with the heart of it. What do you care about? There was an expectation socially just to dive back into it. But people's satisfaction and what they thought they wanted has changed. Down in the global big picture line, we're looking at something in the environment, closing a cycle and finding balance between opposites. And the big picture way of that is to look at this through the Queen of Wands, who is astute, strategic, funny, intelligent and inspired. And that's how she leads. She doesn't lead with harsh words and icy cold precision. I think the Temperance card also shows that the big picture thing of this is learning how to blend these extremes that were pulled in different directions. What started off as logical and making sense hasn't necessarily made people feel satisfied. And the big picture part is to find the similarities and find where everything blends. One of the stories of 2021 will be balancing out this straight, logical, science, I know kind of vibe. And here with the Nine of Pentacles, the only pentacle showing, the only earth card, the only thing to do with material or physical or your work or how you spend your money. It's really interesting to me. It hasn't shown up as a feature for 2021. But all this water stuff is taking us into a deeper heart, a deeper level of working what we can and can't rely on and what makes us satisfied and what we want to change. So this one to me echoes a bit of our Queen of Cups here. This is the card of feeling in that satisfied space, feeling you have what you want, but for some reason you're just not happy. For some reason you're yearning for something more. The big picture story is get back in touch with this bounty of the earth. Why aren't we satisfied and grateful for what we have? And if we want to keep this level of abundance, we're going to have to uncover and work harder and with better leadership, with better vision, a bigger global vision. The Knight of Swords is the real, hurry up card. And with the moon right behind it, the big picture story bubbling underneath it is there is this feeling that we're running out of time. 2021, although it felt like it was a massive fog and we were going one step forward, two steps back, and our regular conversations and our friends and our families were split in two different directions. But that feeling of stagnation is actually pushing us. It's this last grindy bit because the big picture story is saying, it's instilling, you are running out of time. You need to tackle this faster, better, clearer. It's raising these conflicts, so they come down through this way. So what is this? This freedom, if this is the Uranus-Saturn square, this desire for freedom and personal responsibility away from government forces also is undergoing a transformation, and it's bringing the conflict to a really pointy end. This sense of urgency which somehow falls down flat because we're waiting for good leadership. Why would we wait? Some of the ways these connect, the Queen of Wands connects up here to the Queen of Cups, and they're looking towards each other. The King of Cups sitting over it. It's something of 2021 was bringing out this feminine leadership, but also for men to understand this feminine leadership. These issues of consent. The moon mirrors up to here, the Queen of Cups again, and also to the Fool. So on a social level, we're still evolving. We're still working out how to get there. And by that, I don't mean get there so everyone is a beam of light. I mean get through this pandemic and this whole Pluto shift as it's in its last 2 years of being in Capricorn, where it's breaking down the pillars. And that's why I wanted to look at this spread in terms of the different levels that structure what we know. This Knight of Swords, he knights up here to the King of Cups. So I also think there is something that needs to happen very quickly around rising sea levels, cleaning up the oceans. And also if there's the approach is too soft, there'll be a kickback. In terms of COVID, I remember when I did the readings right at the beginning in 2020, and King of Cups and Queen of Cups and the Ace of Cups were coming up everywhere. So we're also looking at the way that all this water spreads and has a transmission effect on the virus. And if I'm looking at the cards that way, through the eyes of the virus, it's the environment, the boundaries and the rules, they go through different changes of being hard and fast and kind of illogical, but also with a bit of blend around travel. And possibly that there'll be more of a defining way that this flow of water happens. And this might be through vaccines. This is through vaccines. This potentially is through vaccines or people who choose not to vaccine. Though remember, this line is our big picture line, not our social personal line. It also might be that this down on the big picture is getting us to be more creative, to learn to live sustainably, and to be really aware of what comes out of the earth. This might be the big picture where we've taken for granted, like I said, the bounty of the earth and supplies and that consumerism. I'm going to draw one card now to have a look at what the biggest challenge. What was the biggest challenge of 2021? These ones are hard to shuffle. Oh, it's you. Oh, the Death card. Okay. That's the way these cards work. The Thoth deck is right to the point. What was our biggest challenge? Going through the transformation, going through the painful truth, going through something inevitable. In 2021, we were right in the middle of it. So I'm actually comforted that this one leapt out, because it means if you thought it was a really crappy year, you were right. But it's changing. Look, the Death card, these ones are full on, but the Death card, look, the sun is there. That's where we're going. In this card, it's this elevation. Look at the way that the DNA and the helixes and evolution is moving forward, onward and upward. And what we're trampling on is the ghosts and the poison and the toxicness of the past. So have a good look at that card. I'll also draw a card for what is the best thing that's come out of 2021, and this is the one that's leapt out. There it is. The Two of Swords. Having to make a decision. This split and the division, one of the best things we had to do was learn that other people think differently to us. That's pretty amazing. I mean, I wish it was like an Ace of Cups or a Four of Wands, but the best thing we did was stop and look at what the different polar opposites we were presented with. This card is when you have to take the blindfolds off. It's Mars in Aries. You have to see directly. And until you can see directly, you can't move forward. Very interesting. Okay, I'll be doing a tarot reading astrology look at what's going on for 2022. But for now, I'm Merryl Key. Like, follow, share and subscribe. If you'd like to know more about my mystery school, go to my website www.merrylkey.com. Blessed be.